you have really good lighting, you actually it's cold. Can we take a bite? What's your rent? Especially on come on, you're my daughter. Well, you're gonna have to eventually have to assist them.
How are you, Rod?
I'm good. How you doing?
Can't complain. Nobody listens.
That guy in the Batman movie come out. Penguin.
Gotham City. I noticed that some I speak fast, and I don't like that. I need to learn how to pace myself.
Yep, next week.
Then on sometimes I get really passionate and I start. That's when. Yes.
Everyone, please rise. Thank you. Dear God, today as the session opens, we pray that your presence will be before us and everyone who serves in this decision-making process of our city. We pray for direction which will lead our city to be strong and unified. May we continue the legacy of our founders. May we be granted this day the wisdom to make decisions which will be for the good of our city. We also pray for your special blessings on all those who are working to transform our city and make it a better place to live and work. Amen. We'll now do the pledge. Thank you. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty, justice for all. Thank you. I'd like to ask the clerk to call the roll.
Mayor Samaras.
Here.
Council Cirillo.
Here.
Council Conway.
Here.
Council Elliott.
Here.
Council Kennedy.
Here.
Council Lee. Here. Council Mercia.
Here.
Council Milonazo.
Here.
Council New.
Here.
That's 9 present.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
could I ask my colleagues to suspend the rules and take a couple of items out of order?
We have a moment of silence for.
I'm sorry.
Mr. Conway? Councilor
Yep.
Conway?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I ask for a moment of silence in darkened chambers for Georgiana Betty Kenny, loving sister and aunt, devoted science teacher at Lowell High School for over 40 years. Georgiana Betty Kenny, a longtime resident of Lowell, died peacefully on March 26, 2019, at the age of 86. She was born in New Brunswick, Canada, on October 8, 1932, the daughter of the late Guy and Georgiana Tithington Kenny. She received her early education in the Lowell school system and graduated from Lowell High School with the class of 1950. Always ahead of her time, Betty was honored to be the only woman to earn a bachelor's degree in chemistry at the Lowell Technological Institute in 1954, which is now UMass Lowell. Shortly after college, Betty moved to Chicago to work in the corporate world. Missing her hometown of Lowell, she returned to begin a teaching career at Lowell High School. For over 40 years, she inspired students to embrace physics, electronics, and chemistry with the same love and enthusiasm she herself shared for the sciences. After classes were out of the day, she volunteers as a cheerleader, coach, a devoted educator. Betty even served as a substitute teacher for many years after retiring. In her early years, she enjoyed family trips to Hamilton's Salisbury beaches. Betty often visited families in New Brunswick. She enjoyed the adventure of discovering new blueberry patches, tending to her home and garden. She loved taking countryside road trips, forever on the lookout for local farm stands and other hidden gems along the way. Betty Kenny was not only an effective teacher with the brightest and the best, but also extremely successful with the challenged and the troubled student. This was truly a rare talent. Betty will be remembered as a dedicated teacher who cared deeply about her students, as someone who loved her family dearly, and most certainly for always taking the road less traveled. She is survived by her brother, Guy Kenny of Cape Verde, Arizona, many nieces and nephew, and she would be missed by many friends and family, and certainly the Lowell High School community and the city of Lowell. May her soul rest in peace.
I want to thank Mr. Conway for those words about Betty Kenny, but I think you realize that both Mr. Conway and I worked with Betty Kenny at Lowell High School, and I think Mr. Conway would agree that when she came into the room, we both stood up at attention. She demanded that.
Yes, very tall, too.
Yes. She demanded that from everybody. Students who took her courses were highly regarded at the various colleges, especially in Boston, Boston University, BC. If a student came from her class, especially in physics, they usually went into honors physics at the college level. She accepted only excellence from her students, but she worked, as Mr. Conway said, tirelessly with all students. So may her soul rest in peace. Thank you for that. Can we please dim the lights? Thank you. Councilman Milonazo?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I apologize again for jumping the gun. If it's okay with my colleagues, I'd like to take 7.1, the subcommittee report, the joint subcommittee report of the Neighborhood and Zoning Subcommittee meeting, which was held last evening. And I know that Councilor Noon would like to take 9.5, a motion out of order as well. So if we could begin with the subcommittee report.
Mr. Councilor Leahy, thank you. Councilor Milonazo?
Thank you.
Yes.
I'd like Councilor Cirillo to begin, and then I'll kind of follow up on her comments if I could. Thank you.
Hi, yes. It was a joint subcommittee meeting between the neighborhoods and also the zoning subcommittee. And the whole of the city council was there, which was wonderful. We had great attendance by the city council. We had great attendance by the neighbors. We had great attendance by the landlords. And also some UMass Lowell students were there also. So it was very well attended, and I was very happy to see that. And also, Eric Slagle was there, Chief Winwood was there, and so there was a lot that was talked about, mostly about rooming houses, and Chief Winward had mentioned that there's 16,000 emergencies a year in the city of Lowell, which I was amazed at that number. We have 24,000 properties in Lowell. That was mentioned by Eric Slagle. And there was a comment or a suggestion by Councilor Kennedy with regards to a hotline number for code enforcement. And possibly, I think Deb brought this up, an education campaign of our ordinances, and there was a mention that the driveway issues that people are having are enforced by our engineer's office, and there was a mention of 4th Avenue parking issues that was brought up, and also that the Lowell Police enforce the parking ordinances. And there was also a discussion about owner-occupied added to the ordinance discussion. Eric Slagle said that he would look into it with the law department. So there was a lot of things that were brought up. I thought it was a very good discussion between everyone that was there last night, and so I'm very happy with how things went.
Councilman Mazo.
Thank you. Let me begin by thanking Councilor Cirillo for coordinating this meeting with all the neighborhood groups. And as Councilor Cirillo mentioned, all of the neighborhood groups were represented. The meeting was very well attended. As Councilor Cirillo mentioned, we did focus on the existing zoning ordinance and the proposed changes that we have talked about in a number of zoning subcommittee meetings as it relates to the rental ordinance. And we did review the minutes of the January 15th meeting where we had talked about having everybody get together from the standpoint of the neighborhood and the zoning subcommittee. Comments were also made around the issue of overcrowding in the neighborhoods, parking, civil disobedience, and all need to be addressed at some level, be it through the code enforcement office or through the manager's office, and that's something we all agreed to. We had one landlord speak specifically about the sign-offs from the health department and how the health department sign-off actually mentions the zoning code going back to 1971. So he indicated that it was in conflict what we were talking about relative to the ordinance, not the state zoning code, not addressing the three unrelated individuals. So that's something that I think as we continue to have these meetings, and the next one is scheduled for May 13th in the Highlands, we need to have some answers to that apparent conflict from the standpoint of the state sanitary code and what these landlords have signed off on when they do get their occupancy permits. And then at the end of the meeting, one landlord came up to me, and I think it's a good idea, Madam Manager, that he asked that if we could have a working group made up of probably myself and Karen Cirillo as the chair of the neighborhood subcommittee, and then have Eric Slagle, some appointees, Madam Manager, from your office, and then some of the landlords, and obviously the neighborhood groups as well, to meet periodically and just kind of work around some of the issues and talk about some of these issues. And then we would certainly, if something out of there, and I do believe something fruitful would come out, that we would then bring it back either to the neighborhood subcommittee or the zoning subcommittee to recommend something back to the full council. So that happened right at the end of the meeting. And we ended it as, again, a report of progress. And again, I commend Councilor Cirillo for getting the meeting out in Pawtucketville. And like I said, we touched upon a lot of good items, and the discussion will continue May 13th.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Kennedy, do you want to make that motion? Councilor Kennedy?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion, Mr. Mayor, that first of all, that we accept the reports of both committees as reports of progress, and that we request that the city manager consider establishing a hotline for code violations in the city, and also that the city manager consider establishing a working group as was proposed by Council Milanazzo.
Second.
I second that.
Thank you. Councilor Elliott?
Excuse me. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I concur with the comments by both chair of the subcommittees. It was a productive meeting. I think the hotline's a good idea, but I do know one concern of the neighborhood organizations that we've heard for a number of years now are the weekends, when neighborhood individuals, leaders, residents, they find people doing work on the weekends and there's no one to call. And I don't believe, and I know there was a discussion in the past, or I filed a motion about having an inspector on duty, and I don't know if that's feasible or not. I know there are some collective bargaining units, but maybe the hotline can be answered, including the weekends, and that could be somewhat of a solution. So there can be either prompt action on Monday or, if possible, on the weekends, because there are a fair amount of violations, in my opinion, that do take place, not just Monday through Friday. And I think some of these contractors know, guess what, there's no inspectors on duty Monday, on Saturday, and Sunday, especially on the weekend. So just if that could be part of, the consideration that hotline's a good idea so people can call, but also on the weekends, how do we get including myself, who do we call? We don't want to be calling you, Madam Manager, on a weekend for a code violation. Makes some sense considering there are 25,000 units in the city. So,
Councilor Cirillo, then
Thank you.
Councilor Kennedy.
Hi, yes. Thank you, Councilor Milanazzo. It was a very good meeting. I just wanted to mention, because Councilor Malinazzo did mention this also, there is a follow-up meeting for the dual zoning and neighborhood subcommittees, and that is happening on May 13th at the Highlands Neighborhood Meeting. I just wanted to reiterate that so that the city knows that that is happening. Thank you.
Councilor Kennedy?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate the comments from Council Elliott. I guess I think a hotline has to be a 24/7, 7 days a week type of thing, and 9 to 5 hotline's wouldn't work out. So I would expect that it would be like that, and even if it's not manned over the weekends, if people can still report violations that they've encountered, I think that they could still be handled on Monday morning.
Any further discussion? Councilor Mercia?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It was a very productive, informative meeting there at the Wang School last night. And when you sit back and you observe what's happening and you hear the neighborhood group and you hear them complain, they're complaining for a reason. They're not complaining with the landlords that happen to be there, because these are the good people that do the right thing and try to keep the laws right. But we have a certain element of people that come in and try to generate as much money as they can by violating the rules. So the key issue here is we have an ordinance in place, we just have to enforce it better. That's the gist of what I took from this meeting. So to the landlords that were there, these aren't the people that are breaking the rules and things, but the neighborhood has a concern with the people that are. There was traffic problems and overcrowding and things. Try to generate as much money as you can at the sacrifice of the neighborhoods, and that's not the right thing to do. So that's in essence what I wanted to bring forward. Thank you.
No, thank you. And as an observation, I want to thank the two chairs of both subcommittees and the members of the subcommittees for doing an excellent job last night. That meeting could have been contentious, but what I saw was a good working meeting on both sides. And I think that's going to lead to us resolving a lot of issues. But I want to commend everybody for the way the meetings were handled last night. It was very well done. Thank you. Okay, next we have a motion.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to take 9.5 our orders and...
All right, I just want to read the motion.
Go ahead, sir.
Motion 9.5 is by Councilor Noon. Request city manager have the Department of Planning Development give an update on the lighting at the Roberto Clemente Baseball Park. Seconded by Councilor Malinazzo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We do have two people is going to speak, representative from the Cambodian American community and Latino community. Mr. Clerk can begin with them first. And
Barack J.
What did you do?
I guess it's meant to be held. Good evening, Honorable Mayor Samaras, City Councilors, and residents of Lowell. Before I came here today, I went to the park to take a look, and it's pretty accurate what people were saying. But I saw one thing that was very beautiful. A child and a man was throwing baseball, playing catches, likely a father and a son. And, it was getting dark. So can you imagine, if getting lights there, what it would do, not just to a parent and a son playing catches, the quintessential pastime for Americans, what it would do to our community, the children, and how much it means to them. Not only that, when you have these children out there together, they build team cohesion, build characters, leadership, followership, etc., rather than being on the street. And I can't see the father and son playing on the street and low, because there'll be a lot of broken car windows. So those are a couple things. I'm gonna, be true to myself. So I'm gonna keep this short and sweet. With with the rest of the people behind me. No pressure on you. Please light those fields up so we can light the dreams of our children. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm gonna try to fix this.
Sokmis Che.
Good job.
Good job.
Hello, just checking. Good evening, Mr. Mayor. My name is Sokmis Cheer, 606 Westford Street. And good evening to council members and everyone here. And bendición to my Puerto Rican friend and elders. I'm here representing Cambodian community as a whole and myself as a taxpayer of the city of Lowell. From what I gather speaking to Maria today is that at any time during a game or practice, there's about 40 to 80 people at the park. And as we just heard that there's enough funding for lighting for these children and people, the attendees, to be at the field so they can see during the evening time. But why I came here today is that I want to request the bathroom and possibly a concession stand, because you have 40 to 80 people at the game or practice going to doors, knocking on neighbors for using the bathroom. And I believe that should be an issue when we have money within our city to provide these young people adequate bathroom to use during the game. You don't want to see young players, young children walking to some home looking for a bathroom, and especially adults too. That's weird. So I believe that the city of Lowell should take care of these people, these young players and attendees, because it's a good investment. And these investment on young people will reap for years to come. And these children will remember this. And the last word I wanted to say is that, and I quote, "You reap what you sow." So give them the bathroom, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Maria Claudio.
Isma intérprete. Mi nombre es María Claudio. Gracias por la invitación que se nos hace a nosotros. Soy presidenta de la Liga de Béisbol Roberto Clemente aquí en Lowell.
So hi, my name is Betsy St. Ange, and I'll be the interpreter for Maria Claudio this evening. My name is Maria Claudio, and I am the president of the League Roberto Clemente here in Lowell.
Estoy aquí por la petición que nosotros hemos presentado a la ciudad acerca de la necesidad de los baños, las luces y concesión están para nuestro campo de béisbol.
I am here this evening requesting the necessities of the field that I have for bathrooms that we need, concession tables, and other necessities that we need right now in the field.
Quiero tomar en este momento para dejar claro que la Liga Roberto Clemente es una entidad aparte de nuestra petición, que no es a nombre del cambio del Parque Roberto Clemente.
I want this evening to make clear that it is two different matters. This matter does have nothing to do with the petition last week, in which we were here for the renaming of the park. This is something way different. We are here today to request the necessities only of the park, of the field, I'm sorry.
Nosotros como liga tenemos la necesidad de que se nos provea un baño a nuestros niños, se nos provea también un concession stand y también se nos provea un storage, la cual no tenemos.
As a league right now, we are in need of concession tables, public bathrooms for our kids, and we don't have it at this time.
Y las luces, la cual hemos hablado con parte del City Council que está aquí.
Also, the lightning that we need at the field as well.
Estas tres cosas nos ayudarían a darles una mejor experiencia a nuestros niños que nos vienen a visitar de diferentes ciudades.
These three different things that we need will make a big difference because we do receive other visitors coming from other states.
Nosotros vamos a llevar a cabo un torneo internacional para el mes de julio,
We will have a tournament for July,
lo cual tenemos aquí parte de las personas que nos van a visitar.
which we have in this form all the people who plan to visit.
¿Cuál sería la experiencia de nosotros que lleguen estas comunidades a nuestra ciudad? ¿Y cómo vamos a quedar si no tenemos las necesidades que estamos exigiendo aquí?
We need all these necessities, and what can we explain them, and how can they be well received if we don't have these main necessities?
También otra cosa que les quiero dejar saber. En esta semana estuvimos nosotros practicando en nuestro field, Roberto Clemente Field.
I would like to also let you know that this week we were practicing in our field, Roberto Clemente Field.
La cual había muchos niños pequeñitos y jóvenes y adultos,
There were adults, youngsters,
jóvenes, niños y adultos, la cual tengo algunos presentes aquí. Encontramos muchas culebras en ese parque,
we found many snakes in that park.
muchas.
Many.
Los niños pueden dar parte que ellos las vieron.
We have witnesses here, the kids from the league, they can testify.
No es la primera vez que nosotros encontramos culebras así. Es
It is not the first time that we find snakes, live snakes, at the field.
Y como les mencioné, lo que estaba exigiendo anterior, que esto no tiene nada que ver con la petición del Parque Roberto
And
Clemente.
like I said before, this matter today that we're speaking about, this has nothing to do with the petition that we were in last week.
Solo
for the
queremos
renaming of
saber,
the park.
solo queremos saber en qué estatus queda lo que se nos ofreció a nosotros sobre las luces, los baños y concesio stand.
We would like to know where we stand right now because they did offer all these necessities when they did give her the field. The concession stands, the bathrooms, and the lighting of the field.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That is our request.
Any further speakers?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I filed this motion last year in May, requesting that the managers have the DPW work with representative from Roberto Clemente baseball field to install lighting, scoreboard, and concession stand. So I know that the DPD, under the leadership of Diane Tratt, trying to find money for lighting, and so we'll get that happen, make that happen this summer with regard to lighting. That's why I'm asking for updated. Coincide with last week when there was a Border Park meeting. I heard again the complaint, and which I saw that my own eye last year when I went to the park, and there's no light. And you hear Cambodian American community came, and a lot of them are here in the background. They did not speak, only two did. They know how it feels because it happened at Roberto Clemente Park, known as to Cambodian Pilot Park. For years, there's no light. For years, there's no bathroom. And for years, there's no concession stand. And the city, after so many years, came forward and had make that all happen. You should see the light, the face of all those children and adults that lit up. They're so happy. So I would say that, then last year I filed a motion. I told Maria that you're not going to wait 8 years like we did, because it's not right. It's not fair. It's not fair to the kid. When you have 80 to 40 kids out there on a summer day playing baseball and stay out of trouble, you want to help them, have some light there so that they can play into the night rather than hang on the corner causing trouble or have trouble causing them. So the cost is not too much to ask. The cost for not doing anything is more. That is, so I urge managers through your office and to DPD. I know Diane Tratt's going to try to help make life happen. So, like one of the speakers spoke, that is, like the dream of these young people would like, So, so maybe we can do more than just have lighting there. Maybe we can have bathroom there as well, and concession stand if possible. And that's all they ask for. And that's all I'm asking my fellow council and the administration to do that. Thank you.
Well said, Councilman. Yeah. Council Cirillo and Council Conway.
Yes, hi, thank you. This is a fantastic motion by Councilor Noon, and I support it 100%. When I was growing up, I went to a park, and it was such a quintessential time of my life as far as being with friends and enjoying the swings and the baseball, and it's just key and a wonderful part of childhood. And so I support this motion, and I think it's important, and I think our children deserve it. So thank you.
Council Conway.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I also would like to echo the fact that this is a good motion, and I applaud Councilor Noon for putting it on. I think it's extremely important, and which was said, the fact is that this field, like other fields and parks and so forth, is an incredible investment for our youth. And I think that throughout the years, Mr. Mayor, you and I have seen firsthand that how important sports are, sports and other activities. And I've often said that sports are perhaps the greatest dropout prevention program that I have experienced. So I think that whatever we can do here to make sure that this park is certainly a showplace going forward. And I also agree with Councilor Noon. With the motion here, it just talks about the lighting, but I wonder if we could also get a cost on what the bathroom facilities would take, and also the concessions, because we want to attract people to the city. This is a great opportunity because baseball, like other sports, attract a lot of the youth, and I think it's important that the facilities we have are something that we're very proud of. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, we have Councilor Leahy, then Councilor Mercy, then Councilor Elliott. Councilor Leahy.
Thank you. Through you to the manager, could we organize a public-private committee and try to get, some ideas? I was going to say Councilor Elliott built a concession stand for the soccer field, so he knows how to do that. I mean, concession stand with the bathrooms, right? I mean, you don't have to build it yourself, but it's going to be the hooking up the sewerage that's going to cost the money. And then maybe our friends over at National Grid that owe us some favors could help us drop a few poles in there and help with the lights. But that's the only way we're going to get it done right away, is if we have public-private working on this, try to get this stuff done. It's not going to be cheap, but if we can get volunteers, get people to volunteer their services like Councilor Elliott, we can do this. So we could have a concession stand there in a month if he gets on it, so. Thank you.
Okay. Councilor Mercy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We're very lucky in this city with people that devote their time day in and day out to nurture the children in this city by way of keeping them occupied on fields such as Maria Claudio and all the people that are at Clemente Field behind the Cumanzelis Park. Very, very instrumental in making this a better city because of their dedication. So it's really incumbent upon people such as ourselves to try to figure out a plan to make it happen for them what they're asking for. I know it's expensive, but don't we in a city have many, many partnerships? And I remember many years ago, because I'm rather old, but I remember at the Highland Field, Highland Park in the Highlands, there was one of the leaders had a husband who worked for National Grid, and he managed to get National Grid poles there, and they put the lighting on, and it saved a lot of money. And as Councilor Leahy said, maybe we could work a deal with partnership with National Grid to supply the very poles that we're looking for. Maybe we can go to the vote. They had a beautiful legislative municipal breakfast this morning there, talked about different things and how talented the students are there. Maybe there's another avenue that they could help build a concession stand. There's many ideas. People are willing to help if they only knew that these things were happening. And I think that that is the start of something very nice to make this a better city, better amenities for the people that are given of their time. That's what I say. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, we built one at Lowell Youth Soccer. We raised the money, and Maria, I'll be there. We'll build that. We'll come over. I'll be happy to build it. But I do know two things. There is money working at the Department of Conservation, and thanks to the delegation, and we should thank the delegation, because the city did receive 4 earmarks. One, Madam Manager, as you know, was specifically for playgrounds and parks. And I think this is a great opportunity to use that money. And we have to thank the delegation, Representative Nangle, Golden, and Mom, because they approved it. And we'll see some changes. So I think there's opportunity there. But I also know that the Greater Lowell Vocational Technical School, they built a number of them in the city. They built the concession stand of Father McGuire behind the Wang School. They built the one at the Bailey. So I think now that there is a field behind the Bartlett, and it's heavily used, it's only right that now that we put lights, you can tell 7 o'clock. If there were lights there, I know, because at the field, it extends it for several hours. I think it's worthy of an investment, and bathrooms are essential. It's just important. We can get porta potties, but in order for leagues to raise money, they need a place to have a concession and bathroom. So I wholeheartedly support this. I think we can move on this quickly, because considering there is some funding available. So we built a field. And if you build it, they will come, and they are coming, but they need they need lights, and they need a place to go to the restroom. So I think this is a great idea, and I'll help every step of the way.
Councilor Milinazzo, then Councilor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to date myself, but about 30 years ago, I was involved in building the concession stands over at Shed Park with a lot of mothers and fathers, and it was a partnership. And I think what my colleagues are saying here this evening is that we need to be part of the partnership going forward to help install the lights in the bathrooms and the concession stands over at Clemente Park. So I think it's a very good motion. What I'd like to mention is that two things. One, Action Energy, which is a nonprofit group, I believe out of Boston, they do provide lighting. The poles might already have to be installed, so National Grid, as Councilor Elliott mentioned, and others could possibly install the poles, but you might be able to get a company like Action Energy to come in and actually install the lights at no cost. The other thing I want to mention is that if you look at President Trump's FY20 CDBG budget request, which, again, this park, in my opinion, would be eligible for community development block grant funds. And the budget request from President Trump's administration zeroes the block grant program out. Again, it's probably dead on arrival in Congress, but at the end of the day, I think we as a group need to know that monies that have been so important to neighborhoods like the Lower Highlands and Lower Centerville and Belvedere and other places, are at risk. So again, it could be that Diane Trad does have a little CDBG money left over that could also maybe fill some of the void here. So again, it's a good motion, and I certainly support the partnership going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Kennedy?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think this is a good motion, and it's pretty clear that this entire city council is in favor of doing this. I think that the partnership idea is a good one. The vocational school, they certainly would have the capacity to do that. And I recall on several occasions when Councilor Belanger was here, that he used to often push for corporate sponsorship for different things. And so maybe we could get somebody in the business community to fund the building of a concession stand, and even the restrooms, especially if it was going to be able to be named after them. You know, we've got a lot of banks in the city that are generous, and we also have some very large businesses who might be willing to take a look at this and fund this. So certainly that would be worth looking at, I think. I think that we have to keep in mind that parks like this, in addition to providing recreation for the residents, they also serve to host people that come in from out of town. And sometimes that might be the only impression that out-of-towners have of the city, is how we keep up our parks. So, so I think it's important that we do that. And so I'm looking forward to the report, but I do think that there are options that we could explore. And while we're talking about parks and restrooms and concession stands, I believe that there was funding last year for the restrooms and the concession stand at Alumni, which is also another park that people come in from out of town. And many other improvements have been made at Alumni, but not those improvements. They have existing restrooms, but those restrooms are in bad condition. They have a concession stand, but the concession stand also is in bad condition. And I think last year, along with the other improvements to the park, that those components were supposed to be included as well, and they weren't. So I don't want to take attention away from Clementi, but as long as we're talking about this and there's no other item on the agenda that allows me to bring it up, I just thought I'd bring it up at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. No, I want to thank the council for, supporting this. Is a good motion. There's also another perspective we have to think about. I mean, they are in July, we'll be entertaining teams from many different countries. And one thing that they have to do is raise a lot of money for that event themselves. And they're willing to do that, but the thing is they have to have the tools. So a well-lit field, a concession stand, and those type of things will allow that. It's one of the few areas in the city that doesn't really have lights, and so I think this is important to think about, Madam Manager, because of what they're planning to do. That's a baseball league that's not only very active in the city, but they're active now nationally and internationally, and they're trying to bring teams in from other countries for our children to have that type of experience. So it's kind of a unique situation. Councilor Mercia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I remember last week when our city manager talked about the budget being put together, and it was suggested that this council give you our thoughts as what our priorities are. Well, I think that I can count on unanimous support here for this particular issue. So I'd like to voice my opinion that I think this is a priority that would like to develop. Thank you.
Madam Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the Council, Planning and Development has been working on this issue. Councilor Noon, we've been in contact with and looking to identify resources. I think the early estimate to do all this was over $1.5 million. And so, but in terms of the current fiscal year, the lighting is about a $400,000 to $500,000 component. Diane Trad is here. We are working feverishly to identify those sources in this fiscal year in terms of putting this out to bid ASAP. The other pieces obviously have to come into a capital plan. Diane, I don't know if you have anything more to add on that, but I know they've been working with Connor Baldwin in terms of a bid process to try and get moving on the lights and just get the process started.
Sure, we do have funds for doing some of this work, but obviously not all of it. And we first have to hire an electrical engineer because some of the existing conditions out there weren't what we thought they were. We had Steve Kuchu look at it last week, and I think some of the existing electrical lines are shot, and he thinks we might have to replace coming from the street. So it could be a great deal more expensive. So the first thing we're going to do, and we're seeking quotes now, is to get an electrical engineer to look at it, and then we'll move forward. But it is our priority.
Thank you. Councilor Mercia?
Is there a way we can get rid of these snakes? Do we have animal control that can go over there and
This is the
blast
first
through them?
we've heard
and-
of it.
I never heard of it, but
So we
that
will,
frightens me.
We'll check with animal control.
I
It's
might
the
not
first
go
we
over to
heard.
your opening day, since I know they're there. If we could send animal control over and bring them somewhere, like, I don't know, somewhere far, a zoo or something.
All right,
Council Leahy volunteered me to build a concession stand. I like to volunteer him to go get the snakes.
We'll take that under advisement. Thank you for the input. Is you volunteering,
Sure.
Council Leahy?
Can I just, to you, to the manager, I just want to stress that there's a lot of people in the city that would like to help, so.
And
I
we're
hear-
all ears if they want to
Okay,
contact us.
But I
for
hear
certain,
us
but-
saying that we're looking for money to pay for it all.
Yeah.
So we don't have to pay for it all. There's.
Well, if we can
there's
get,
a
if
lot of
they want to
people out
identify themselves, we're happy to talk to anybody.
Well,
And
we'll get a
we
list.
certainly will, yeah, we'll
Okay.
certainly explore that, as well as the VOC. I think that's a great suggestion.
Oh, yeah, all right, thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you. All right, we're going to back on the agenda. Under Mayor's business, we have first today we had the Complete Count Committee kickoff event. Is Etta Matchek here? Etta? You want to describe to the city council what's happening
Sure.
regarding the census?
So thank you for having me, and thank you for asking Christine and I to collaborate with your office on this project. So here inside City Hall, we've been getting ready for the 2020 census since 2017, and we've already been through many different projects related to the annual census. But today, what we're here to talk about is our big kickoff event that we'll be hosting on Thursday, April 25th at the Senior Center. So everyone received a postcard invitation on your desk tonight, and we're actually in the process of distributing invitations citywide to many of our community partners and friends, and ideally we'll have a great party on the 25th, and we'll be able to identify some areas and some resources here within the city of Lowell to really help us increase maximizing our funding that we will be able to receive from the 2020 census.
Any questions from council? Council Kennedy?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. How long should the census, how long does that take? 6 months, 9 months? How long does it take to do that?
It takes about 3 or 4 months. So the census actually counting is going to start in April of 2020. And if everyone responds immediately, it's the first time the federal census will be administered online. So really depending on the response rate will dictate the timeline that it does take to achieve a complete count.
Okay. And in the past, there have been local people that have been hired to do the census. So is that going to be available to people who live in the city as well?
Yes, so the Federal Census Bureau will be hiring a tremendous amount of local people to help with the process. We actually were able to meet with the Federal Census Bureau New York office yesterday, and they'll be coming to our event on the 25th to also talk about some employment opportunities for local people with this process.
Those full or part-time positions?
It's a combination.
Okay, and when you say how many is a whole bunch of people? A lot of people. How many?
I believe a few hundred people throughout the region.
And how would people find out about this opportunity?
So one place is to attend our Complete Count Committee kickoff on the 25th, but we'll also be working through the Career Center to have some employment information online.
Will it all go through the Career Center?
Any place that we can advertise, we will.
So how will people find out about this then? Will they find out about it from the TV station, or will they find out about it from the newspaper, or do they have to go online, or part of?
So we'll use all of our resources that we're currently using for advertising employment opportunities, but then we'll also work with some of our community partners to advertise as well.
Okay, and that should be coming up soon?
Shortly, yes.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Councilor Cirillo?
Hi, yes, thank you. So the census is going to be online. Will it be a dual online and in the mail? Only because I know that there are some community members who do not have computers. And so or will you be setting up areas like the senior center having, with some computers and having people come in? Do you have like a meet and greet day for people who don't have computers in their home that will be needing to fill out the census?
So it will actually be you'll be able to fill out your census on your phone as well. The Census Bureau actually announced that yesterday at the event that we were at. So what we're doing is going to advertise and promote filling out the census, and we're working collaboratively with the federal government, who is actually going to administer the process. So we're going to be working with places like the library, schools, the university to promote having people fill out the census. And then the Census Bureau is going to push in to help us provide some of those resources, including locations, events, and the census will be available in many languages. So although the initial communication will be only available in English and Spanish, the online census itself will be available in 9 languages.
Fantastic, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other discussion?
Another point is if people do not respond after 3 notices, somebody will go out and knock doors like the traditional census that we've seen in years past.
I think that's an important point, because the questions were asked, what methods were used, but the thing is, there are a certain group of people that just aren't going to respond either by computer or by letter or by showing up at a meeting. So how are you going to go out and identify them?
So if people do not respond, then the Federal Census Bureau is going to send out those employees that we just touched upon to knock doors and to gather the information manually using kind of their old tactics.
Councilor Kennedy?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can you explain why the census is so important and why it's so important that we count every single person that lives in the city and what the benefits are of having a large population?
Sure. So one thing that we really want to make sure we're able to maintain with this 2020 census is our status as being the 4th largest municipality here in the Commonwealth. And that is kind of in question. We're kind of neck to neck with Cambridge right now, so we'd really like to be able to continue to be the 4th largest municipality. Additionally, we receive a little over $1,000 per person that is counted here within the city, so we want to maximize any funds that are available from the federal government, and the census is the way to do that. Another piece of the census is to make sure that we're represented adequately, and the number of seats that the Commonwealth would receive is dictated by the census numbers.
Another question. There are certain groups of people that are very bothered by the idea that the government would take a census and they'd be identified, and they're worried about staying in this country, those type of issues. Does the census report that type of information to ICE, for example, or anything like that? What happens with the information they get?
So that's a great question. The information gathered by the Census Bureau is confidential information. The Census Bureau is unable to publish any of those details. So the Census Bureau confirms that at any time they will not be turning over any of the sensitive information gathered to other agencies within the government.
The important aspect is getting the right count. That's the only concern.
The real goal of the Census Bureau is to adequately capture how many people are living here within the city. And so the information will only be used for those purposes.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions?
So I hope to see everyone on the 25th at our event. Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Thank you. I need a motion to accept and place on file by Councilor Kennedy, second by Councilor Cirillo. Thank you. Next, we have motion responses. The first one was regarding Councilor Noon, a motion to have the school committee request that the Lowell have the mayor go to the school committee, request that Lowell High School Social Studies Department work with city officials in writing more fitting testimony to display with the portrait of Benjamin Butler. We have Robert DeLosa, head of the history department here. Mr. DeLosa.
Yes, this was in response to a request by Mr. Joseph Boyle. In the fall last year, we had an event that was co-hosted by Lowell High School, the Lowell Historical Society, UMass Lowell's History Department, and the Lowell National Historical Park to commemorate the 200th anniversary of the birth of Benjamin Franklin Butler, who is one of the great Lowellians to come out of the city. He was originally born in New Hampshire. He moved to Lowell with his mother when his father died. She ran one of the boarding houses, and he grew up in that environment. And he was one of the first graduates, as it was understood back then in the 1830s, of Lowell High School, from a background of poverty and deprivation. He became a Civil War Major General. He became the governor of Massachusetts, a member of the House of Representatives, and active in the state government, and also one of the most sought-after lawyers of his time. And among the other remarkable things he did were many progressive causes. So one of the things to be aware of is that during the Civil War, at the beginning of the war, for the North, the major issue was not slavery, but it was preserving the Union and maintaining the validity of the election results of 1860. There were abolitionists, to be sure, but the fighting originally was around the question of preserving the Union. Ben Butler did two things at the beginning of the war. The first is that he quickly mobilized and got forces down to Maryland, and through his work, even though the Confederacy attempted to surround Washington, D.C., which might have ended the war quickly, he managed to both put down riots in Baltimore and also to relieve pressure on Washington. The other thing that he did, which is probably one of the most remarkable things, is that he formulated a way of freeing slaves without invalidating the prior validity of a Supreme Court ruling, and also without flying in the face of the Constitution, something that Abraham Lincoln wasn't willing to do at the beginning of the war. And there were other abolitionist generals, including John C. Fremont, who had declared that in areas under their control, slavery was abolished, and that was overturned by the president. What our Benjamin Butler figured out to do at the beginning of the war was when a group of 3 slaves came across from the Confederacy to the Union lines, he declared that because the South saw them as property, and because the Confederacy was using them in its war efforts, that they were technically and legally, both in U.S. law and under international law, contraband of war. And he declared them so, and said that because of that, the Union could seize them as Confederate assets and hold on to them. And that effectively freed them from bondage in the South. So this quickly caught on, and tens of thousands of African Americans from the South who were slaves came across Union lines, and this began a movement that really pushed the slave issue to the fore in the war until we had the Emancipation Proclamation. Another thing that he did is he pushed for the 10-hour workday. He also pushed for women's rights. He was he was the first governor to have a woman in executive office, and he also appointed the first Irish American and African American judges to the judiciary in Massachusetts. So he is, as one might think or say, a complete package, made even more so by his rock star status, and this was discovered by Professor Bob Ferrant at UMass Lowell. The historical record shows that he was the first person to be body surfed into another venue. And for body surfing, that's at a rock concert when somebody jumps on, other people. And this occurred when he was trying to get into the Lowell City Council chambers, and it was mobbed by workers. This was around labor issues, and they put him up on their hands, and they brought him all the way up into the city chambers. So before I read this, I would like to thank all of the people who were involved in this, and especially for this particular thing, Stephen Stoll of the Lowell Historic Board, and then Dick Howe, the local historian of the community. Joseph Boyle, as I said, brought this forward. Stephanie Donahue, also with the Lowell Historical Society, has been very important. David Byers was the contact for the National Historical Park. And then Janine Whitcomb at the Center for Lowell History, and a number of others, including Brian Martin. And then the other thing about this is some of this information comes from the descendants of Benjamin Butler, who also collaborated in the event in the fall. So I'll just read the proposed citation. One of the great success stories and colorful figures to come out of Lowell, Benjamin Franklin Butler, was born in New Hampshire and moved to Lowell as a youth, where his widowed mother found employment running a boarding house. Butler's experience in that environment influenced his subsequent work and politics. He was one of the first graduates of Lowell High School and later graduated from Colby College. He practiced law in Lowell, supporting progressive causes that include labor rights and civil rights for minorities and women. Butler's greatest and most controversial actions came as a general in the Civil War. He was instrumental in ensuring that Washington, D.C. was not encircled by rebel forces in 1861. He was one of the first major generals appointed during the war. At Fort Monroe, Virginia, he devised a legal strategy for freeing slaves who crossed Union lines by calling them contraband of war. That formulation succeeded. Tens of thousands of slaves crossed Union lines to freedom. This led to the abolition of slavery becoming a formal goal of the war for the Union side. However, Butler also was heavy-handed in his military governorship of occupied New Orleans in 1862. This, along with other aspects of his Civil War service, created a Confederate campaign of vilification that lasts to the present day, with epithets like Ben the Beast Butler. Butler went on to serve 4 terms in Congress and was prominent in the drafting of Reconstruction civil rights legislation. In 1883, Butler became governor of Massachusetts. He initiated the long walk that governors in the Commonwealth take upon leaving office. He ran unsuccessfully for president of the United States in 1884. By the end of his life, he had risen from poverty to become one of the most wealthy and prominent Lowellians of his time.
Thank you. Councilor Kennedy?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Nice job on this. I think this is a lot better than what it's replacing. The only question I had, and it's just a little trivia question, do you know where the boarding house was?
My understanding is it's the one that's near the park right now, Boarding House Park, but I'm not 100% sure about that. So I'll find that out and I'll get it to you.
Will you?
Yeah,
Thanks.
yeah.
Okay, thank
Okay.
you.
Councilor Noon?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mr. DeLosa. And, as well to Steve Lowell for working with Mr. DeLosa and his team to put this together. This tribute really is beautiful and fitting testimony of a man who is, born and raised in Lowell, or at least, grown up in Lowell, raised by a single mother, to become a governor of our state, and then those unsuccessfully ran for president. But the things that really really hit me was the fact that, we're talking about Lowell have a first woman city manager, Madam Manager Dunhue, first woman, Congresswoman, Congresswoman Nikki Songus, first woman Chancellor Maloney. So we know where this first came from because of, Benjamin Butler. It's not surprised. What really good to hear was that he's very skillful in terms of find way to help free the slave. And just find a loophole to do that. That's awesome. And he's, those are the kind of things that we sometimes forget. And to the tribute that we had for him before, I think it's nowhere fitting at all. And this is really beautifully written and fitting a man that, Lowell should be proud of. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. DeLosa. It was great work, very good work. Thank you. Okay. Next, we have another motion, a motion made by Councilor Mercia, and this was to have the state senate, the state representative revisit the state's bullying policy, Chapter 71, Section 370, to amend the section which does not allow the perpetrator's fate to be disclosed to the victim's parents. So letters were sent from this office to the Senate office and the House offices, based on your motion.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for that effort. I hope that they see fit to revise the laws, because I think that if someone has bullied your child, you should know what the outcome of what's happening with that. I don't think that they should say, my child was bullied, and we're not going to tell you what happened to the person that has done the bullying. So I think there needs to be an overview and a visiting of it to make it more amenable to the parents and the people that are concerned about it. So thank you so much for these letters.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Thank you. I need a motion to accept and place on file by Councilor Conway, second by Councilor Cirillo. Next, we have the acceptance of the minutes of the Economic Development Subcommittee, March 26th, and the City Council meeting of March 26th for acceptance. Need a motion to accept and place on file?
If there's no objection, could we table the minutes for Economic Development Subcommittee? The subcommittee, is it recessed? It didn't finish its meeting, and so we'll be meeting probably next week or the week after. So if we could just hold it till a future time.
So right now, it's just the City Council meeting of March 26th. Need a motion to accept and place on file by Councilor Cirillo, second by Councilor Conway.
Your Honor?
Yes.
Just, could we take one more thing out of order? There's a speaker here for 9-7, if you don't mind.
9-7. I need a motion by Councilor Milanazzo. This is to have the request city manager provide a report regarding permitting fees issued by the Board of Parks. Okay, we're all set. Will clerk please call the speaker? Okay. Huh?
Second.
Gable up.
Good evening, everyone. Dave Willett, 113 Cabot Street, Lowell, Mass. I'm here tonight as Action Acre Coalition to improve our neighborhood. Well, there's a few other things, because I came down here to get the festival packet for the Lantern Festival that's coming up. And while we were here, the parks are very good, because when we go and we talk about any festival we're having, the parks work with us and sometimes waive the fee, like especially for Siega Fest, where we work so hard on the North Common, the CBA, and the Action. And they just did the same thing because we have a huge acre cleanup coming in. But the part that bothered me was when I was pulling that thing, I had talked to Eric, and I don't know if you know or if it got passed, but he said now that when we have a festival, and like the Acre Festival, it's all volunteers, and while we give away the food for free, the music's free, everything's free, it's advertised by the city to go, but he says from this point forward, every festival is going to be charged for the health inspector. I ran that department for years, and we used to just go out on a Saturday, if it was the African Festival, the Cambodian Festival, whatever it was, and we'd go do the inspection. Now he says that we're going to get charged for our minimum pay a time and a half on a Saturday, which brings all these free events and everything that we're doing to cost us an extra $150 to $160. And that's a lot for all these are all just get-togethers from, and we celebrate our ethnicity in the city. And to all of a sudden add that cost to every event is just going to be burdening, and we might even lose some events. So I just want to bring it up that I don't know if you all know that all of a sudden that just happened as of a week ago or 2 weeks ago, and I just don't think the charge is fair for all the volunteers from everybody that when we all go out to try to make our neighborhoods better, that we get charged $150, $160, because then if you have other fees for other things, next thing you know, it's not going to be done anymore. And we can't lose all these great events that we have from all the different cultures. So it's just a burden. And there's less than 20 festivals a year. So even if it was 20, that would be 3,000 a year. So the only thing we're talking is, it's never been done before, is the most you could have raised anyways is 3,000. And we bring in a lot more revenue by, like, the Latino festival out here probably brings in 1,000. We bring in about 500, 600. The other ones bring in different amounts. The Lantern Festival fills up everything between Economical Park, the Two Greek Church, and the St. Pat's, fills that area up. So that day, there's thousands of people out. The Lowell Kinetic Sculpture Race with Bianca right here brings out about 4,000 people. They're all through downtown, and it's, like I says, the city advertises it like, come see these events. So all I'm asking is that the city just pick up the fee for the rental. It's not going to make much of a difference anyways. Thank you.
Councilor Leahy?
Thank you. Through you to the manager. If we could just take a look at this, my motion with the parks, I had noticed that there was a fee for cleaning up the park, so I just thought that was kind of odd. I guess it did get waived. We were going to have about 200 volunteers there, and I just thought it was odd that there was a $75 charge for the fee, for the permit fee. So if we could just check into that. And the other things that Dave said, you know, maybe the benefits far outweigh the costs, so we should just take a look at our, you know, if we have to pay for an inspectional fee or from the fire department or health department at any of these events.
We'll take a look at, I'm unfamiliar with the issue, but we'll look at the fees and we'll look at what's being discussed as far as cleanup fees. That part is new, but we'll look into it, Councilor.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Councilor Mercia?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm flabbergasted. I mean, are we a city that is, we should change. Something isn't right with the picture. And later on in my motion, I'm going to expand a little bit on it, how we as a city are probably stifling people. This is, I can't even begin to get it out, but I'm shocked by it. I know that we need revenue in this city. There's no doubt about it. But are we going to create revenue at the expense of hurting people that are trying to offer entertainment and good? There's a lot to like about Lowell. There's a lot to like about Lowell, and we're going to tax people by feeing them to the hilt. We got to revisit the city and see just what we can do to raise revenue without hurting events. That's a good example of what I'm talking about, and I think we got to revisit it. This is not right. At the expense of having this not happen anymore, people are going to stay in their house when they could come out and enjoy themselves and say, oh, did you know I went to Lowell? Look at what happened there. Look at the kinetic race. Look at this. And we're going to stop that at an expense to raise money for revenue. There's other ways to do it, and I'm going to tell you how to do it when I get into my motion later on. Thank you for telling us.
Councilor Kennedy?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the city solicitor. Where does this fee come from? I don't think anybody here has heard about this fee. I mean, is this something that the Board of Parks initiated, or?
I don't know, actually, if the CFO has any familiarity when we were changing the fee structure, the fee schedule.
I mean, my impression is that if you want to change the fees, that there has to be an ordinance that comes in before the city council.
Correct.
And there has to be a public hearing and so forth, and none of that I remember happened in this instance. So how did this happen?
Yeah, the only thing we know, we will get your report. A few years ago, it was brought before the council in terms of schedules of fees, and we will get that report for the council so that you can look at that. There hasn't been any change of late, so I'm not quite sure where that comes from, but we will get the full report.
So are you thinking that this is something that was done a few years ago and then it's just been waived, or just we haven't paid attention to it until this
We'll
year?
have to do some research.
Yeah.
We don't know whether it's ever been waived, whether it's been enforced. We really don't know. I mean, it isn't any recent development, but by the council, but we'll get that.
Fair enough, thank you.
Councilor Noon, then Councilor Mercy, I'm sorry. Councilor Noon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's a good motion, Councilor Leahy. I know that we had the New Year celebration at Roberto Clemente Park every year. There's a fee, for using the park. However, because they are raising money to do those events, the fee get waived by the border park. I think the festival like one that Dave Olet just mentioned, those are organizations that really try to bring cultures and people together, and they don't have money, and they do a lot of those things for free, and they have free food, free popcorn and whatnot. So I know they may have done, the border park may have waived a fee with them in the past. I think organization like that, we should, if there's a fee for the use of park and whatnot, we should waive because they are really trying to bring people together, and that's what we want to see. So I'm glad that the manager is going to look into it. So thank you.
Okay, Councilor Mercy.
Thank you. And in another note, let's say that Mr. Willett has an event on a Saturday and there's a spread of food and you need a health inspector to check that food out, and it happens to be a Saturday. Well, isn't it possible that you could know that this event is coming up and swap a day and say, you'll have Friday off or whatever, so that you could attend this and just check out the food or whatever? Is there a way we could swap something?
Without getting too this is subject to collective bargaining agreements. We'll have to get, information, but it's not as easy as it sounds, unless someone was willing to do it. But we'll get information on that, but subject to the union.
All set? All set. Councilor Leahy, you all set?
Yeah, we're just gonna say that we'll check out all the fees that are go on to any type of event that's held at a park. And
Yeah, I mean, the council sets fees, so it's up to the council. So we will get a status of what those are now, how they're
Right.
implemented, and if the council wants to make changes.
yeah, and again, they, maybe the border parks on the what I saw, maybe they normally waive it, and maybe this time it slipped by, but I saw it on the agenda, which sparked the motion. And then I just want to make sure that, with any of these other activities that happen, we just want to take a look at, any type of inspection fees from the fire department or health department, that, what's the greater good here, so, thank you.
Thank you. Next, back onto the agenda, communications from the city manager, motion responses, neighborhood business group, outreach. Councilor Noon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's a very in-depth report, and I know firsthand because I know that Andrew Shapiro, the Director of Economic Development from Diane Tratt's office, have done a great job. I know firsthand because he did it. He went there to the Branch and Middlesex Street Business Group meeting. He conducted a number of meetings there. He actually formed those groups. The business group there. And the list go on as far as what he did here. He also, I think a report indicated that hold regular weekly hour meeting at UMass Lowell Innovative Hub. So every Thursday afternoon. So what I want to know is if Andrew is here. If you could just have a question or two in terms of who are the participants and how was the turnout, every Thursday over there?
Thursdays at the Innovation Hub?
Right.
Yeah, just to clarify, they're office hours, so we usually have a staffer, one of 3 people, myself, or the Economic Development Assistant or the Economic Development Officer, or just present at the iHub, and sometimes they'll make rounds, talk to folks who are there, ask them if they have any questions, or just get a general sense of, what they're up to, or someone might notice one of us there and be able to come up and talk to them, talk to us themselves, but we don't have any formal organized meetings. Sometimes we do arrange some meetings, but we're generally there just present to answer questions and be available to people.
I see. So with other neighborhoods, say Pawtuckaville Business Group and or Centerville, how often, how many times per year would you, have contact or connect with them?
Sure. I don't know that since I've been here, and I've been here for a little over a year, I don't know that we've had a formal neighborhood interaction with Pawtuckaville or Centerville as of yet, but we generally have broad interaction with any neighborhood and any business that wants to, ask questions of us. I think I mentioned in the report, we also try to engage with different neighborhoods through the Small Business Week activities, the SBA Small Business Week. So we'll have office hours at institutions like the Chamber of Commerce downtown, at the DCU branch on Bridge Street, as well as the Gorham Street branch of Enterprise Bank. So we'll hold events throughout the city at various times, but generally speaking, we're always available to any business in any neighborhood, and we're always happy to have formal outreach or formal meetings to reach more businesses.
Well, thank you for the good work and the report. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
What I'd like to add, though, when Councilor Cirillo brought up the idea of the city councilors walking the neighborhoods, many of the city councilors also attended a lot of the meetings, the Bridge Street Business Group, Highlands Business Group, the different areas. And I think we have to do a little more effort to bring some of those back, because I think we learned a lot from the various business groups, and they were able to express a lot of good points and raise issues that were important to the various neighborhood groups or business groups. And I think that has to be looked at.
Sure.
Okay. A good motion. Councilor Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I know, Andrew, I was at that meeting, and it was attended pretty well. I guess my question is, my hope or the expectation, and I believe Councilor Noon would concur, was that similar to the Couple Square business organization or business group, I think it's a formal organization, if you will. I mean, I know they don't have articles, but they met regularly, and I think the success of Couple Square was bringing the community together and understanding the importance of curb appeal and trash and facade, et cetera. Is the hope that by going to these, for instance, Branch Street, that the businesses will come together as a unit, and then the city can foster that relationship, but at some point in time they will collectively work together without the city involvement?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, regardless of whether the city's at a formal meeting of the business group or not, we want to make it clear that we're always available to be present or to engage any other city department that they need assistance from. But yes, absolutely. We'd love them to operate independently if that's what they see fit to do. One thing I would just raise that I didn't add in the report in regards to the Branch Middlesex Street area in particular, we also did put in a request separately through our CDBG application process to request some funding, and we'll see if that comes through, to go toward business assistance in the Branch Middlesex Street area in particular, so we could sort of continue along the lines of the conversation we had over the couple meetings that we already have had with that group.
Well, that was my follow-up, because when we went there was, to me, an impression that we left that, guess what, it needs some curb appeal, it needs trees, it needs benches, it needs, sidewalks, et cetera. And that was the impetus of trying to get them to come together as a group, but to sustain it themselves, where they would come to the city and say, and it was, I mean, you presented a lot of opportunities for businesses in that area, including small business assistance loans. So what's the next step, I guess, to move to self-sustaining organizations up there? And not only there, but as you mentioned in Centerville or these small little business corridors that are very important to the city.
Yeah, the next step would be, well, first I'd like to see if that CDBG funding comes through. If it does, we'll re-engage with the stakeholders there. We have a list of the businesses that have been attending those meetings, as well as a list of other contacts that are present in the neighborhood. We've also we have a strong relationship with CMAA, which obviously has a strong presence in that particular neighborhood. So we'll continue to engage and to make sure that they're aware of all the resources that the city has to be able to assist them. And we'll work collectively also with the broader DPD and development services to, bring forth the resources that the city has to do some of the things you just mentioned, curb appeal, if there's anything the city can assist with.
Thank you.
All set? Councilor Noon?
Thank you. Just to also update it, I know that Andrew, you were not informed, but the CMA and other player, they are having their first meeting sometime in May to form a group. It may not be a formal group registered with the state, but like say the Branch and Middlesex, Business Association group. They, as a group, then will, communicate and work with the city through the Andrew Shapiro's office and DPD, looking at what Councilor Rodney Elliott indicated, that the curb appeal and whatnot, and they will have to, from there on, they will have to help maintain, and that's the idea.
All set? Yeah, because none of these groups were formal associations, but merely all the businesses coming together. And I think as a city, we have to foster that and support that.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you.
Thank
Any
you.
other questions? All right, thank you. I need a motion to accept the place on file by Councilor Kennedy, second by Councilor Mercia. Next, we have votes from the city manager. Authorize manager to negotiate and enter into a contract with Sci-Fi Networks America, LLC. Waive the full reading, second reading by title. Authorize the city manager to negotiate and enter into a contract for a period of 30 years relative to requests for proposals to build and operate a community-wide, high-speed, robust, and well-designed fiber-to-the-premise network over an open-access fiber network for residents, business, government, and community anchor institutions located within the city of Lowell. I need a motion to adopt.
So moved.
By Councilor Cirillo, second by Councilor Elliott. Any discussion? Councilor Mercia?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Manager Donahue, are we going to have a representative come before the council to speak?
I think thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you to the council. I think based on the conversation and the debate last week at the council and the suggestion to prepare the vote, I think it was anticipated it would be sent to a subcommittee, at which time we'd invite Sci-Fi representative to come to the subcommittee. So it's up to the council if you want to proceed with the vote or send the vote to the subcommittee, whatever's the desire. But we did anticipate having a presentation to a subcommittee, technology subcommittee.
That's good. I'm ready to vote. It's just that I wondered about the people representing
we would ask that it be sent to the subcommittee, and then we will make arrangement for the presentation.
That's fine. Thank you.
Councilor Cirillo and Councilor Kennedy.
Hi, yes, this is wonderful, and I think what the community really should hear about also is that the internet access service, for an example, would be $70 a month, which is extraordinarily doable, I would imagine, for homes instead of the $200-300 that we're currently paying. So I just wanted to mention that.
Councilor Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The motion on the floor right now is to approve the authorization right now. So if there's no objection by the maker of the motion, I would just amend the motion to also send it to the subcommittee. We have a subcommittee on technologies, right? To send it to that subcommittee as well, which wouldn't wouldn't hold up the vote this evening. We proceed with the vote this evening, but simultaneously also send it to that subcommittee for discussion in the near future.
Fine. Second?
Second.
Councilor Cirillo, thank you. Councilor Leahy?
Yeah, through you to the manager. I was surprised to see this on here so fast. So what are we actually doing? You're gonna negotiate?
It was, there was a motion made at the council to
Right,
prepare
last
the
week.
vote. Yeah.
So where are we, like, it just seemed like it was answered very fast. So are we entering into a deal, or are we just talking about it?
We would be negotiating a contract. The contract, the proposed language is in the packet. It's thick, it's pretty lengthy, but would begin the process.
Okay, but I'm just not following, because, I mean, the Councilor Melanazzo brought some points up, and then during the week, people brought points up too, that, that, you know, maybe the, what do they call it, the 5G would be here first, or what, I mean, so are we just laying, they're just laying the groundwork for the fiber to come in so people can do 5G, or?
5G is something different, but the idea would be to send this matter to the subcommittee for further discussion.
Right.
The request was to prepare the vote as well, and so it's up to the council if you want to move forward with the vote or refer the vote and discussion to the subcommittee. That's up to the council.
Right.
We just did what the council asked us to do.
All right, we have the city solicitor that wants to.
You're right, that's exactly what the manager was just stating. That was a motion that came from the floor to prepare the vote. What the council is really voting on is not necessarily the contract itself. It's the ability for the city manager to enter into a long-term contract. And so that's what is being authorized tonight. And that, in this case, would be a 30-year vote. The manager would be the individual actually normally contracting.
Madam Manager?
In the vote, the final contract would come back to the council. So,
Okay.
correct? Or so? Before it was finalized, whatever the council desires.
Okay, all right. I mean, I'm just not up to date on all the technology aspect of this, and from what I was hearing, it's a good thing, but then there are other communities that have problems with this company, so I didn't know, you know, where we were going with it, but that's fine.
Councilor Elliott?
Well, I think, maybe I'm confused, because I mean, this is moving very quickly, and it's significant, and it could be a good thing, but we don't know. There was, as far as we learned last week, there was one community that had moved forward, but they actually hadn't completed any work. Is that correct? The city of Salem? Or they
Salem
having
just recently
discussions,
signed
so-
the contract. They entered into the contract, and
And
so
what
now
was what was that contract that
With
they entered
Sci-Fi.
into? With Sci-Fi for how many years? What were the terms?
I believe it's the same term, but they just recently did it, I think, about a month ago, or in December. So the reason they haven't gone forward is because they've just begun the relationship with the company.
Okay. I would personally like to see a presentation before the subcommittee and exactly understand what we're moving forward. I don't oppose this, but we're asking you to move forward to negotiate a contract, and I'm not sure exactly what we're negotiating.
So it was anticipated by us that this would be going to a subcommittee for the presentation, but as I said, there was a vote last week to prepare the vote, so that's all we did.
If the motion is to send it to the subcommittee and designate you to move forward with the contract, I'm going to vote no. I'd like to hear more about it. I'd like to know what we're getting the city into, what the obligations are, what the terms, and let them make a presentation before. I've never seen us move forward with something, I think of this magnitude, which could be a good thing, without a thorough discussion on it. So I support it, but we need to get a lot more information on exactly what this is, and so.
So you have a
Thank you.
substitute motion, is there a second? By
No,
Councilor.
I didn't make a substitute. I just said if the motion is to move forward
Okay,
with
but it's-
the vote,
Please.
I'm not going to support it. I support it sending it to the subcommittee.
All right.
Mayor.
Councilor Kennedy,
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My understanding is this, the motion as it is, as amended, would just move this forward. So it allows the city manager to go forward with negotiations on the contract, which is a 30-year contract, and simultaneously, it allows the Subcommittee on Technologies to have a discussion. The city manager seems quite willing to come back with the final contract for an additional vote. But that's all that this does, is just, you know, everything's not final tonight with this vote, but this vote would move it forward on both those tracks.
allow negotiations.
Yeah, which I think is a good thing. If there's members of the city council that have problems with the city manager entering into negotiations at the very beginning and they want to wait and hold off until the technology subcommittee is finished, I have no problem with that either. But I don't think that there's anything wrong or inappropriate or irresponsible about going forward with both tracks simultaneously.
That's it.
Okay, yeah. Councilor Elliott? And then Councilor Leahy.
I understand. We're asking the city manager to move forward to begin negotiations when we don't know what we're negotiating. I don't know what the rush is. Manager can sit down and have discussions about what the product is and what is going on with other communities. Is it not working or is it working, without starting what I would think is formal negotiations. So to me, I just feel rushed with this. I don't know what the rush is, but I'd like to learn a lot more about this other than a short discussion last week. And I think it's a good thing, but before we take that step, I just would like to know exactly what we're getting into. So that's my point. I don't have a problem with the manager having a discussion, but to initiate formal proceedings after 1 week,
Okay,
I'm not going to support it.
I understand that. Councilor Leahy, I mean, but the city solicitor wants to give some input, then Councilor Conway after that.
Just a quick point. I mean, typically, this type of a vote would even take place prior to the city going out to bid. So, as the manager indicated, nothing will necessarily happen. It's just authorizing, it's usually authorizing the solicitation and the negotiation, but whatever the council wants to do.
Okay, Councilor Leahy, then Councilor Conway.
Yeah, I just would feel more comfortable if we slow down. I mean, we have the budget coming up, we have a lot of things going on, and I don't know how much time this takes out of your schedule negotiating this contract, but we have more pressing things right now to be doing. We can send this to the subcommittee, find out more about it, and then move on. That's how I feel.
Councilor Conway?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm a little surprised, too, that it's all of a sudden in 1 week. I mean, this is a big move, and I think it would be prudent that that we might hold off and wait until this is vetted out in the technology subcommittee. The city solicitor just said not necessarily something would happen. Well, that means that something could happen. So I would like to see it. I would like to see it and discuss this in a lot more detail. So I'd like to understand in you know what's going on with it, to be quite frank with you, because I don't have enough of information to vote on something as important than this, and that affects the entire city. Thank you.
The manager, then Councilor.
Let me just be clear. So last week we brought in the report and we discussed sending it to a subcommittee. At the same time, the council voted to prepare the vote. That's all we did. So there's no recommendation that there's any rush or anything like that. It's complete, as I said at the outset, it's completely up to the council. The whole matter can be referred to the subcommittee, whatever the desires of the council. But when we made the presentation, it was a request to prepare the vote. So that's what's on the agenda tonight.
Thank you. Councilor Noon?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think we asked the manager to prepare the vote. So the vote is here. Just because the vote is here does not mean that, this allowing the managers to have further discussion, with the provider does not foreclose us as a council to send this to the, technology subcommittee and to vet into this and to have more discussion on into this. I too would not make a decision hastily. If the manager can have discussion with providers, at the same time we can have the subcommittee in meeting to learn more from the providers. I think if the manager have time to do that and do prepare the budget and do other things, good for her. I will support that.
Councilor Mercia, then Councilor Milonazo.
Mr. Mayor, maybe it's best, I know people are willing to vote, and we did ask to prepare the vote, and they did exactly what we voted for and asked last week. But I can see the hesitation, I can see the uncertainty, I can see the need to know more about this, I can see the need to slow down a bit. Maybe it would be best if we referred this prepared vote to the Utilities Subcommittee and work with it from there. That's what I would suggest.
I'll second that. Now, that's what I was going to suggest. So I'll second that as a substitute motion. To refer the entire item 5.1 to the Technology Subcommittee.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Any further discussion?
Roll call.
Okay. Roll call.
Mayor Samaras.
Yes.
Council Cirillo.
Yes.
Council Conway.
Yes.
Council Elliott.
Yes.
Council Kennedy.
Yes.
Council Leahy.
Yes.
Council Mercia.
Yes.
Council Milonazo.
Yes.
Council Noon.
Yes.
9 yeas.
Thank you. Next, vote authorize city manager to approve Mass Mills easement and license agreement. Waive the full reading and second reading by title. All right, authorize the city manager to accept a permanent conservation easement from Massachusetts Mill 1 Limited Partnership, Massachusetts Mill 2 Limited Partnership, Mass Mills 3 Limited Partnership. Authorize the city manager to execute a cantilever easement between Mass Mills 3 Limited Partnership and the city of Lowell, a construction access agreement between Massachusetts Mill 1 Limited Partnership, Massachusetts Mill 2 Limited Partnership, Massachusetts Mill 3 Limited Partnership with Mass Mills LLC, a license agreement between Massachusetts Mill 2 Limited Partnership and the city, and a license agreement between the city of Lowell and Massachusetts Mill 2 Limited Partnership, and authorize the manager to negotiate and enter into a memorandum of agreement between the city of Lowell and Massachusetts Mill 2 Limited Partnership. I need a motion to adopt by Councilor Conway, second by Councilor Kennedy, I believe. Any discussion? Roll call.
Mayor Samaras.
Yes.
Council Cirillo.
Yes.
Council Conway.
Yes.
Council Elliott.
Yes.
Council Kennedy.
Yes.
Council Leahy.
Yes.
Council Mercia.
Yes.
Council Milonazo.
Yes.
Council Noon.
Yes.
9 yeas.
All right, next, vote transfer $95,000 in fund to various accounts in the police department covering training and expense. Waive the full reading, second reading by title. Order to transfer $95,000 in funds to various accounts in the Lowell Police Department to cover training expense. I need a motion to adopt by Councilor Conway, second by Councilor Cirillo. Any discussion? Roll call.
Mayor Samaras.
Yes.
Council Cirillo.
Yes.
Council Conway.
Yes.
Council Elliott.
Yes.
Council Kennedy.
Yes.
Council Leahy.
Yes.
Council Mercia.
Yes.
Council Milonazo.
Yes.
Council Noon.
Yes.
9 yeas.
Okay, next, vote to authorize the city manager to execute a lease, Eastern Bank Police Substation, 50 Central Street. Waive the full reading, second reading by title. Authorize the city manager on behalf of the city of Lowell to enter into a lease agreement with Eastern Bank with the principal place of business at 265 Franklin Street, Boston, Mass, for property located at 50 Central Street, Lowell, Massachusetts, in the 01852 district. So I need a motion to adopt
So moved.
by Councilor Cirillo, second by Councilor Elliott.
Mr. Mayor.
Any discussion? Councilor Elliott?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Madam Manager and Superintendent, I think this is an excellent location. I think this is one of the best locations we could put a police precinct, especially in the downtown. So I think it's going to make a huge impression. We know there's been challenges, not only in that area, but this is right in the heart of the downtown. So I just want to congratulate the chief and you for identifying this location. And this is the best investment of money, in my opinion, given the nightlife and many of the other issues down there. So I was pleased to see this on the agenda. We knew that we needed a location downtown, and I don't know how we found it, but I think this is going to be a welcome addition and improve public safety in that downtown area.
Okay. Councilor Noon and Councilor Mercia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Sorry.
I concur wholeheartedly with Councilor Elliott that this is a great location, smack in the middle of this establishment that, college kid and adult and the night goer, who want to have a happy hour, that's where they hang out, smack in the middle of it. And so this is no better place than this location. So thank you.
Councilor Mercia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm happy to see that this substation is taking place at 50 Central Street. So let me direct your attention to the high-rise across the street. On the first floor is Bank North, and then there's a high-rise. And in this city, it seems that the bad guy wins, and I don't like that. And it seems like there were a bunch of benches out front there, and the people that live upstairs in the high-rise would come down in the nice weather and sit there. But it seems to me like all the benches are gone now, and people are wondering, where are these benches? These benches are gone. It's because unsavory people sit there and congregate and do whatever wrong things that they're doing, and then the city or someone, I don't know who, took them all out and punished the people that live in the high-rise. I'm thinking if there's a substation across the street, it's not very far from police presence. Let's get those benches back there. Let's get the good people back down on the benches, and maybe the police can walk around and say, look, these are for the people that live upstairs, and you don't be doing this on these benches and things. That's my opinion, and let's take back our city. That's my opinion with this substation. So, Chief, I'm sorry to, be critical, but I just want good things to happen for good people. That's my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think this is a really good idea. I think many people on this council have said from time to time that a good police presence is important downtown, particularly for people that live there, but also for people that come in from out of town, that might come to a restaurant or to some other activity in the downtown area. Those people feel much safer and more secure if there's a good police presence. So it's good to have this substation on Central Street, but what I would expect is that means that there are going to be police officers that will radiate out from the police station so that we have a good presence on Merrimack and Middle and Market and the rest of Central Street as well. I think that in order for the downtown to succeed, police presence is key and a very important priority. So I'm happy to see this initiative. Thank you.
Councilor Conway.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just very briefly, I'd certainly like to echo what my colleagues have said. I think it's I congratulate the city manager and the chief, Richardson, because I think that the exposure will certainly be needed, especially, I mean, let's be honest. We've had our issues downtown. I think this can certainly, with the presence of the police, I think it's going to clean up a lot. And not only that, but it sends a message, what Senator Kennedy just mentioned. And the fact is that there's going to be the businesses are now, I think, going to have a little bit better comfort level, and also the individuals that live down there. So again, I congratulate you. I think it's a great opportunity. And again, what Councilor Mercia said, get those benches back and get those people out there. I think it's a win-win all the way around. Thank you.
Councilor Milonazo.
Thank you. I plan to support the vote. I just want to acknowledge the good work that Eastern Bank has done since they came into the city of Lowell in 2008. Again, they responded to an RFP and they're getting rent, but at the same time, they're a very good corporate citizen, and to have this space, 50 Central Street, available as a police precinct is going to make the world of difference, not only in that particular part of the downtown, but I think throughout the downtown. So I just want to acknowledge their good work as well. Thank you.
Chief Richardson, I just want to acknowledge the good work that you and the city manager did, but could you just talk, the question is the availability of police at that station, what your plans are for that?
Well, I appreciate the support. The city manager deserves the credit here. She's the one that actually found the location. This came about after a discussion we had after we basically did a tour of the Lowell District Court, and we're still on the fence whether we could have used that property or not. But collectively, we knew that we, between your wishes, the people downtown, that we knew that we had to have a footprint down there. And the location couldn't be a better location. I agree with that. As you come down Central Street, you're going to look to the right and see that precinct right there. As was stated in the paper, we sat down with the command staff and, where do we find the bodies to fill this? And we did take from other areas, but we feel we can still be successful. And part of it was the reason we thought that we needed to have the 3rd district downtown is that we need to be committed to it. We needed to have a captain down there, an executive officer, lieutenant who will be there at night, and we were actually able to pull resources to the point where we have 6 extra walking routes down there now, and we have fixed posts in the morning and the afternoon, so when people are coming into the city in the morning, when they're leaving the city in the afternoon and at lunchtime, they're going to see a police officer at strategic locations around not just downtown, but in the Hamilton Canal area. So I've got a lot of positive feedback already from people in the area down there that they're happy to see that, and we want to continue those efforts down there. And we also have 8 district response officers, 4 on days, 4 on the evening shift, that will be more of the problem-solving officers. If something needs to be dealt with, they will go in and surgically, do the analysis on it with crime analysis. There will be a crime analyst person assigned downtown, just like the other sectors. And it's going to be treated just like a neighborhood. That's what the goal is here. And it's not a business district, as I said in the paper. It's not a 9-to-5 business anymore. It's going to be a 24/7 operation down there, and I think it's been long overdue. So we're going to do our part. We're going to be down there. And again, I appreciate the support. I appreciate the leadership from the manager on this. I couldn't have a better location. The officers are excited. They're motivated. I think they all agree that we need to be down there, so we move forward and give it our best shot.
Thank you for that response. Thank you very much. Roll call. I'm sorry, Madam Manager.
Yeah, thank you. Just briefly, I just wanted to add, again, it's the chief's commitment to community policing that's making this happen and making this work. And as the chief indicated, the footprint of downtown is going to be greatly expanded under the command that's going to go down to Hamilton Canal, out to the Concord River, and out to beyond Dutton Street. So as we think of downtown, it's going to be much larger in terms of this presence. To the issue of the benches, I know Diane Tradd is here. Some of the benches, you're right, there were problems with people on the benches. The benches were in very poor condition. Diane, you may want to address. We're working with people down there to put benches back, but we want to make sure the people who deserve to sit out there have benches that they're not being harassed or intimidated by. So Diane, if you can address the bench issue.
Thank you. We are going to use some of the earmark money that we got for downtown to purchase new benches. The benches that were there had been there for a long time and were in very poor condition. We have also worked with the landlord of the building that you're talking about, the residential building, and they are actually building a little courtyard. It's kind of like an interior outside area, from what I understand, for their residents, because they were having problems with their residents not being able to sit out there.
That's right.
So, and a lot of the neighbors, we've asked them to keep their eyes on things to see what kind of changes we see, and they've all reported very positive outcome from removing the benches. So I think we're going to have a little shift in what's happening there, and then we can put benches back And we won't maybe put as many, but we'll put new ones in, they'll be in good shape, and maybe when the landlord puts that little area in, it'll just be a very different vibe in that area.
Good.
So we were very sensitive to removing the benches as well.
Yeah, that hurt me because I
Yeah.
heard from people that said, we like to come down and sit there, but
Yeah.
we're being pushed out and
Yeah.
things.
So
I
this
don't
is-
like to hear that.
No.
They have a right to come down and get the fresh air and.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Yep.
Roll call?
Mayor Samaras.
Yes.
Council Cirillo.
Yes.
Council Conway.
Yes.
Council Elliott.
Yes.
Council Kennedy.
Yes.
Council Leahy.
Yes.
Council Mercia.
Yes.
Council Milonazo.
Yes.
Council Noon.
Yes.
9 yeas.
Next order is from the city manager, order 60-day trial, waive the full reading and second reading by title pursuant to chapter 266 of the Code of Ordinance, City of Lowell, Massachusetts, concerning section 266-6, therefore entitled Temporary Experimental Regulations, Temporary Traffic Regulations are hereby implemented for a period of up to 60 days. I need a motion to adopt.
So moved.
By Councilor Noon, second by Councilor Mercia. Any discussion? Roll call?
Mayor Samaras.
Yes.
Council Cirillo.
Yes.
Council Conway.
Yes.
Council Elliott.
Yes.
Council Kennedy.
Yes.
Council Leahy.
Yes.
Council Mercia.
Yes.
Council Milonazo.
Yes.
Council Noon.
Yes.
9 yeas.
We've already had the report of the subcommittees of the neighborhood and zoning area. Next is wire inspection. National Grid requests installation of electric conduits on Quebec Street between Blossom and Maple Street. I need a motion to adopt and accept the accompanying report by Councilor Conway, second by Councilor Elliott. Next, petitions, property damage. Motion to refer to Law Department for a report and recommendation by Councilor Conway, second by Councilor Leahy. Next, we have miscellaneous. Elizabeth Silva requests City Council revert Perry Street back to two-way street. A motion to refer to the Law Department / Transportation Engineer for a report and recommendation. Need a motion to accept?
Petition is there.
Petition. We have a petitioner to speak.
Good evening. Silver's Mini Market started in 1986 in July on Concord Street, which is a one-way and off-street parking. We are a family-owned and operated by the four of us, Natasha, Derek, Manuel, and myself. We envisioned to have a bigger and better accessible place for customers back in 2001 when the building that housed Care Ambulance, I don't know if you all remember, went up for sale. We purchased, renovated, and moved into the business, which is on Perry Street. We moved in July of 2001. Now we have a bigger neighborhood store with more selection in the Portuguese, Brazilian, and Spanish goods, with a parking lot for 10 cars, and it was a two-way road. So it was easier for customers that came from different areas, surrounding cities and towns. Back at Old Mother Hubbard had been on Roger Street and Perry Street in 1974. The Scott family owned that business till 2008. They employed over 100 people, which all had cars to get to work, mostly. They had tractor trailers up and down Perry Street on a daily basis, which was a two-way road. Now we have 5 homes, 4 businesses, all before Sherman Street. We have 3 businesses, 14 homes, the 2 African Nigerian churches, and I believe it's 2 automotive businesses behind that brick building. National Grid substation, big and small vehicles up and down the road all the time. 3 businesses from Pond to Andover Street. One of them actually has closed down now on Perry Street. This road was quite of a business and relying on customers to get them to easy way in and out through all of these one-way streets to get to the final destination. Deliveries that come with tractor trailers or tow trucks, they'd have to loop around on Sherman and Pond Street to come in reverse direction to get to the loading docks to make deliveries are making it hard. I myself have a piece of property, mixed-use territory, and the city is telling me that I have to have ample parking for what I want to build. Again, back on 2012, when these 34 condominiums were being built, the developer stated that they had ample parking for all of them. Entry and exit way was going to be on Rogers Street. And they stated themselves that they were not going to be a burden to Perry Street. And the parking signs were going to go up and no parking was going to be there on that left-hand side as you're coming into Perry Street, which didn't happen. Someone forgot to do something there. Now, I and my family are asking, since February 21st, that's the first sign went up for one-way, coming through Rogers Street to Andover Street, which makes it hard. We are asking if we can please reconsider putting Perry Street back to a two-way road, which makes it very hard on our sales also. It has gone down tremendously. Customers say to us that it's hard to get to us and harder to get out to Andover Street, especially from 3 to 6 p.m. It's an impossible battle. It is just all backed up and no one will let you into the traffic. I have collected 420 signatures from people who are unhappy, that have been coming to the store for years, and they're unhappy with it. So please, I ask, will you reconsider? I have this as a two-way road. I remember a city councilor meeting stating that the city wanted business to come into the city because obviously they were going to make a little bit of more money. So I'm sure that nobody would like to see a business close. I thank you very much.
Any discussion? Councilor Leahy?
Sure. I know the traffic engineer's here. Could we just, how many more days are on the 60-day trial?
The 60-day trial started February 20th. It goes till April 20th.
Okay. And then could we just take, we had talked about maybe taking a look at, maybe we could do two-way. I don't know what the first street is there, that Pond Street.
So basically, if the street becomes two-way, we will be eliminating parking on one side of the street.
No, just
where
that-
the pond.
just up to the first left. Is that Pond Street or is that Pond Street?
Yeah, I don't think we ever considered that specific thing. Initially, it was just the first part to Sherman, and I'd be happy to look into this. I don't know that I can respond right now.
I'm not looking for a response now, but I'm just thinking maybe at the end of the 60-day, we can consider that end two-way. We could put a bump out or whatever you call it, and then just, you know, people
To
would
prevent
not
traffic
drive-
from
right,
going-
traffic
yeah.
would drive all the way down. and-
Yeah, I'm sure that there are some options we can consider. I have heard from a couple residents who saw Mrs. Silva's petition who stated that they are really loving the one-way traffic and they see a significant difference in the noise that they're seeing, and of course they're concerned about losing their parking.
Yep.
I think, going to suggest that we let the 60-day trial continue until the end of the 60 days, and then, like we did for Merrill Drive, maybe hold a transportation subcommittee meeting
Sure.
and let everyone, like the businesses on the street and the residents on the street, present their
Yep.
case. But certainly there possibly are some other options.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Councilor Elliott?
I support that we send it to the Transportation Subcommittee. You know, these business owners have been here since 1986, and I concur. I remember when that development was going in, and there was going to be ample parking, and it is frustrating that we have all these units down there, and additional parking, or I would say ample parking, hasn't been provided for. And naturally, people that bought them, there are more cars, and that road has become congested. So I'll support the 60-day trial, but if the transportation, we don't want to lose any more businesses. I can understand Mrs. Silva's point. I think it makes sense. We're trying to get businesses into the city for a number of reasons, jobs and taxes, and if there's some way that we can, come to a compromise, I think it's important for us to do that. So,
I'll second the motion and send it to subcommittee.
Okay. Any further discussion? Okay. So withdraw this, and we have the motion. Do you want to read the motion?
So motion by Councilor Elliott, second by Councilor Kenny, to send the item to the Transportation Subcommittee for further review.
Okay, thank you. Next, Sienna Engineering Group requests installation of telecommunication underground conduit on Gorham Street, intersection of Dick Street and Moore Street. Need a motion to refer to a public hearing on April 30th 2019 at 7 PM. By Council Leahy, second by Council Noon. Next, Sienna Engineering Group, first installation of telecommunication underground conduit on Gorham Street intersection of Manchester Street. Motion to refer to a public hearing on April 30th, 2019 at 7 PM. By Council Noon, second by Council Leahy. Next, we have Axis Engineering Group requests to place fiber line to service 2 Prince Street. Need a motion to refer to a public hearing on April 30th, 2019 at 7 PM. Need a motion by Councilor Conway, second by Councilor Elliott. Now we have motions. First motion by Councilor Mercia, request the manager have proper department install a sign at the First Street side of Hill area under surveillance and install cameras to identify and find people who are dumping trash there. Need a second?
Second.
By Councilor Leahy. Councilor Mercia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Whether we realize it or not, coming into the city of Lowell up Route 110 to the Huntsville Bridge Circle, or correctly stated, the Holmes Quinn Bridge, you are coming into the city of Lowell as a gateway to the city. And if you look to the right when you're coming up 110, before you get around that rotary, and you look up, there is an embankment that leads to the top of First Street. On any given moment, one would think that it is the city landfill. There is beginning to be more trash, debris, you name it, it's there. One would think that a sign was posted saying, please take your yard trash and dump it here. This is a perennial motion that seems to never end, and I'd like it to end. The reason I'm bringing this up again this year is because someone almost got seriously injured. A woman I know called and told me that she came motoring along Route 110 in Lowell a month or so ago, and someone up above on First Street dumped debris over the embankment, and a big black fender came down the hill and onto the road and almost killed her. And she called different departments to see what could be done to stop this. Finally, after a month, she called me, and I'm bringing it up as a motion. And I wish that I had a camera up there when that creep threw the debris down and almost killed a person. And I don't want to wait until someone gets seriously injured. I think like a year or two ago, I think it was last year, we knew that like 46 cameras were being ordered to go in different parts of the city as needed. If there's a need for a camera or two, it's up there on First Street, because people are just not caring about it. And I believe also that we ought to have signs up there that say, strictly under surveillance. This area is strictly under surveillance. At least give them a warning. This area is a gateway to the city. It's an eyesore, but most specifically, it's an accident waiting to happen or a death waiting to happen. So we need the signs up there, we need surveillance there, and we need it as soon as possible. We're always saying that we want more revenue. Here's a good way to get that revenue. And the reason that I'm saying this is because I believe we need more revenue, and if we're depending on the marijuana sales, it's not going to cut it. We need revenue, and I want revenue from people that are destroying the city. Let them be the ones to pay. Let's catch these people that are making a dump out of our city. And you talk about different areas in the city we want to walk around. We have a lot of dirty areas in this city, and it brings this whole city down when you see that. And I don't want to hurt the image of this city, but only by knowing that something is wrong that we can then fix it. And I think I'm saying this because I care about my city and I want it fixed. Here's something ironic that came to my attention, and you heard Dave Willett come forward and he said, this is what's happening here and the fees went up, and I want to raise money too, but not at the expense of hurting people. I found this ironic. There are 30 people who attend Mass on a Saturday at I wish the chief was still here. I would have liked to have told him this story, or someone, through you, Mr. Mayor, to the Madam Manager, someone needs to hear what I'm saying. There are 30 people who attend Mass on a Saturday at St. Joseph Shrine. There are people that love the shrine, and they live in certain neighborhoods, but they come to the shrine because this is the church of their choice. The shrine is on Lee Street. These people are not interfering with anybody. They're not hurting anybody. They're good, law-abiding people. They go to Mass, and they come out, and they get a ticket on their car. It's a Saturday morning. They're fined $25. If you could let the powers to be a little more lenient. There's no businesses open early in the morning like that. So I would say if we could just be a little bit more amenable. Here's what happens. I remember that at the Lowell Memorial Auditorium, when people were going for their citizenship to be citizens of the United States, these are immigrants that are here trying to become citizens, and someone went around and ticketed all their cars. Can't we be a little bit lenient, probably at the time that Mass has taken place, probably at a time when people are being sworn in to be citizens? Can't we know what's going on in this city and try to be a little bit more compassionate? Go after the people that are the thugs in this area that are hurting our city through trash and things like that. I can't think of a better way for the city to gain revenue than ticketing people who are going to church on Lee Street or at the auditorium. This is wrong. Something's wrong with this picture. But we can be forceful and go after the people that really deserve to be fined. Let's get the revenue from the people that are hurting our city instead of good people that are going to church. And this is my opinion, and I'm seriously meaning it. That hill on First Street is an eyesore. And I realize that trees fall down and there's wood all over the place, but I thought there was a dead body there today. I still don't know if it is, but something was there all covered up, so I don't know what it is, but somebody dumped something there again. So, I mean, we gotta catch these people. It's terrible. So it's a gateway into the city. I thought it was very important. I don't want to see anybody hurt again. And this isn't the first time I heard that people dumped and the stuff came onto the roadway below. It's very scary, and I wouldn't want to be the person coming down and getting in an accident. So that's a gist of this motion. And I bring it up every year, it seems, and every year nothing's done. Get a couple of cameras up there, get signs that say, you're under surveillance. Come on, you want to dump, we're going to fine you. So there's a way we could do it. So that's how you get your revenue, from the bad guy, not the good people going to church. That's my opinion. Thank you.
Councilor Lee?
Thank you. Again, through you, the manager, we do bring this up every year. I mean, I don't understand why we can't get the sheriff's department out there. I mean, that's what these guys do, right? I mean, we should be taking full advantage of people who want to get out, serving their time, get good behavior, and they should be all over the state. I mean, 495 is a mess. There's garbage all over the place, and these are the programs that the sheriff's department does, and we should be taking full advantage of it. And like Councilor Mercia said, there really is a lot more garbage up there this year than there ever has been. And they always give the excuse about the steepness of the hill, but there's plenty of areas there where it's spread out. There's a lot of garbage. Representative Golden was trying to get us a fence up there, a 6-foot fence that would make it harder for people to throw things over. So, you're the person that can get this done, and we believe in you. So if you can do something, you'd be a big hero.
Representative Golden? I'm going to call him in the morning.
Yeah, call him right now.
It has been
yeah.
an issue for many years, there's no question, in the cleaning of it. And I think the ownership of the hill, but at any rate, we will look into it.
I mean, we'll even have a spring cleanup day if we can figure out the logistics, whatever you think we should do, so, thank you.
The sheriff does send a crew down on cleanup day, but why do we have to wait till cleanup day? Can't we prevent it from happening in the first place? That's my desire right here with this motion.
No, we want to clean it up, but we want to get the fence up there, we want to get it cleaned up and then put the cameras up there, sure.
Sure, thank you.
Yep.
Okay. All right, next by Councilor Cirillo, request city manager to have the proper department give the city council an update on the Tour de Lowell race. Second?
Second.
Councilor Mercia? Councilor
Hi, yes,
Cirillo?
thank you. That's exactly what I would like, an update on the Tour de Lowell.
All set?
Thank you.
Okay, next by Councilor Noon, request city manager direct city engineer and make it explicit to contractors hired for paving and fixing our streets that work must be guaranteed and that it will fix any of their work that needs repair within a reasonable period of time. I need a second to this. Councilor Leahy?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, I asked the city solicitor because this issue came up in the past years or so when you have a contractor coming in to do paving or fixing a street, and I don't know how many years you have to be under those contracts that if you do a sloppy job, you have to come back, if you're not, and then we go after your bond. So the language should have been clear from the outset so that they know that if you do a sloppy job, you're going to have to come back and fix it. Otherwise, we're going to, hold on to your bond. And that should be clear at the outset. I think that's important. So I just want to put it out there because we have a lot of, street paving and fixings coming up this summer. So making sure that the contractor that we hire clearly from the get-go understand that you're going to have to come back and do this.
All set? All right, next, I'm sorry, Councilor Kennedy.
Thank you. What Councilor Noon's talking about, we should already be doing that. So what we're not doing is we're not enforcing that the way that we should. I mean, if you do work in the city, you have to get a bond, right? So we're just not enforcing it and just kind of letting it go. So that's really what the issue is we're just not doing as good a job as we should be with enforcing and making sure that the work that's done in the city is up to snuff. So that's all. I think that's where the answer lies to this motion. Thank you.
Okay.
Could I just add one thing?
Yes, Councilor Leahy.
So this is something that just is my pet peeve, and I bring it up all the time. When we pave our streets, and they tell me they always do it, but they don't. The last day, the contractor should go around, pick up all the piping, the debris that's all over the place. So I was just up by Melrose Ave in Pawtucketville, and when did we pave those streets? Last year? This year? I don't know. But there's still piles of asphalt on people's property on the corners. I mean, we pave these streets and we leave the pipes and the debris, and it's been going on for years, and I keep bringing it up, and we keep saying we're gonna do it, and, when I leave my jobs, I clean everything up, so we should expect the same thing like Councilor Noon's saying, when you're finished up, if you clean up the roads, you get your check. If you don't clean up the roads, you don't get your check, so they'll start cleaning it up pretty fast.
All right, next by Councilor Noon, request city manager to direct the parking department, instruct their staff to check pay stations during the daily routes and report any malfunctioning meters each day.
Seconded.
Second by Councilor Cirillo. Councilor Noon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A number of people complain about, they put money into the meter, and the meter took their money, and then that receipt does not come out, and they can't get the money back that way. This motion simply saying that do encourage our, meter enforcer to not only, go ticketing people, but also to check and report back any meter that's not working that same day. That way we have all meter function properly. And that way, resident or tourists who come to the city, wouldn't go back and say, complain about the $2 or the $3, and especially those who are on a fixed income. So I think it's important that we have the people that do the job, do it thoroughly, do it good. You're not out there to go to ticketing people, but also to check on that meter to see whether or not that meter working. So, thank you.
Okay. Next motion by Councilor Noon. Request city manager reach out to the city of Cambridge to see if someone can come to speak to the council about the participatory budgeting process that Cambridge has undertaken during the last 5 years. Second by Councilor Cirillo.
The motion speaks for itself, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
All set. Councilor Noon.
Mayor Samara's motion or requesting the city manager instruct proper department to check the status of the Little League field in the city in preparation for upcoming season. Mayor Samara, second by Councilor Cirillo. Mayor Samara, go ahead.
Madam Manager, this motion basically speaks for itself, but the thing is, the parks area, the city bonds, there's been a lot of change in personnel in that area. And we are getting ready to, little leagues are starting to work out in the fields, but the thing is, I think we have to make sure that all fields are up to par. I mean, there was a description of snakes being at the Clemente Park, whatever that is, but the thing is, there are problems in some of these parks, and I think we have to make sure they're attended to. Okay, thank you.
Nope. Okay, next, Mayor Samaras, requesting the city manager instruct the proper department to study the intersection of Bauer Street and Fletcher Street by St. George's Church to assess the traffic and consider the installation of a four-way stop or traffic light or other measures to ensure safety for pedestrian and vehicle. Second by Councilor Murcia. Mayor Samaras.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. The thing is, this motion here, I happen to be talking to the chief, the fire chief, later this past afternoon, and I talked to the traffic engineer. This is a major problem area, okay? There have been at least 33 accidents in that area in less than 2 years. There's been several accidents in the past month where they've gone through the fence in the church. Actually, a member, I believe, of the fire department coming in from Bauer Street was injured by traffic. If you're coming up, especially from Bauer Street, to take a left onto Fletcher Street, cars park right to the end of the street. It's impossible to see any cars coming from the left. And someone's going to get killed in that area. There have been people badly injured. This is one of the highest traffic accidents areas in the city. And the issue is a four-way traffic sign enough? I'm not sure, but the thing is, even the traffic engineer stated that there are issues that she's become aware on her own just by basic information coming in from the police department. I also spoke to one of the police lieutenants stating that he was doing a funeral at the church and being out in the street in full garb, dress garb, felt that he had the potential of being injured because of the type of traffic that's in that area. So something really has to be done. This is not something that we can answer by a simple four-way traffic sign, but a real study as to what can be done for this area. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Murcia.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. I know that area is trouble. I did receive a call from some people that lived at J.C. Place on Bauer Street telling me how they are constantly hearing traffic stop and accidents happening. And so I asked what we could be doing, and I made a motion to that effect, whereby it was hard to get out onto the street where cars were parking right on the corner, so you wouldn't know that a car was coming because it's up like an incline until you were right out in the line of traffic, and then it was too late so I asked that stop sign, no parking here to corner from the corner back, I think it's, I don't know, so many feet. I thought it was like 19, but I'm not sure of the amount. And they did put no parking here to corner. There is a state law that says, or a city ordinance that says, that we should not park on the corner of a street. But how many people know that? So we had it posted so the sign will tell you. We don't have it on every single street, but where that was needed, the signs were put on both sides of the street. No parking here to corner, so that you could easily see what's coming to try to prevent it. And now you're telling me that there's more things happening. Yes, it's a very troubled area, I know that.
Mayor Samaras. No, Councilor Mercia is correct. Yes, the signs are up there. They're being completely ignored.
Oh.
Okay. Myself, about 3 weeks ago, the car was, I would say, within a foot of Bauer Street on the right. I mean, so it was literally impossible to, so I was getting ready to turn left and finally just turned right, went the long way because it was safer.
Yeah.
And still, there was a car that came up, because it's at an angle, it's dangerous. It just doesn't work, you know. So thank you.
Which is another reason why you can put all the signage up you want, but people don't follow it. You have to put a calming effect in the roadways to, I guess, maybe something needs to be done there to do that, if they're not listening to, or watching the signs.
Thank you. Councilor Elliott? No? Okay. All right, next, Mayor Samaras requests city manager instruct proper department work with the mayor office in establishing a volunteer commission to help prepare for the Lowell upcoming bicentennial, including representative of the Lowell Historic Board, Lowell Historical Society, and Lowell Heritage Partnership, and other appropriate organization and individual. Do we hear second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Cirillo. Mayor Samaras.
Thank you. Madam Manager, that was in discussion with our local historian, Mr. Howe, talking about we really have to create a bicentennial commission. I think this is a great opportunity for Lowell. Many people know that the bicentennial will be, Lowell was incorporated in 1826, and so in 2026, and people say, well, that's quite a distance off. But if you look, in 1821, the Merrimack Manufacturing Company was founded, so there'd be a celebration for that. In 1822, you had the Irish Laborers March into Lowell to build the canals. 1823, you had the start of the Mill Girls. So from 1821 to 1826, you had a great deal happening. So I can envision in this city from 2021 to 2026, we can incorporate many events in this city to make this a destination spot, not only for people who live in this state, but from all over the country, because Lowell is part of many firsts, and I think this is something we should celebrate. And if we establish the right type of commission, I'd like to work with you and, with approval from the city council to, start a commission that would start working towards that. The issue of how that the board would, what memberships it would consist of, that could be discussed with the city council, because I believe everybody should participate in this process to assure that we do it right.
Councilor Malnaso.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. It is a good motion. For those of us that have been around for a long time and that were on the Sesquicentennial Commission back now 21 years ago, again, it was a very good approach back when we were celebrating the 175th. So I know that in the manager's office and in the mayor's office, and I know in some nonprofit businesses, they have the list of the people that were involved. So it's a good approach to include really the same group, but just expand it. So thank you.
Do we have any announcement? No announcement? Councilor Conway, announcement?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the to the city manager. I'm wondering whether you could just take a couple minutes and give an update on the water bill situation. Is that possible? And I think that, you know, any kind of plan that we might have to rectify that.
Yeah, thank you, Counselor. The third-party vendor that we utilize for the water bill had made an error on the reminder notice, which came to our attention yesterday, that there are errors, large errors, where people are being notified that they owe $100,000 or more dollars. They have sent out notices, as have we, to tell people to disregard that. I know Connor Baldwin has worked with this company previously. The city has contracted with this company for a few years now. We'll look at how that's going, but I don't know if there's anything further to.
Thank you, Madam Manager. I would only add that, you know, if residents have questions about their bills, in most cases, just on their face, these bills should appear to be in error. They were grossly miscalculated, and this had to do with the interest that was being calculated on the bills. So it should appear at first look that something is wrong. If residents want to speak to someone about their bills, they can call the Water Department at 978-674-4240. So that would be if you wanted to talk about your usage or what your billing normally looks like. If you have specific collection questions, you can call the Office of the City Treasurer at 978-674-4222. We did shut down the portal for this online bill presentation system until the issue is corrected. Right now, we anticipate that being back up available by Friday.
I thank you for that. I just want to add one other quick thing. My next door neighbor, we obviously, you know that these are mistakes that are made. Her bill was $387,000, and she called Friday, and I wanted to pass this on because she said she called it at 5:03, and somebody was there. She said a real person answered, and her name was Sharon, and she said she was absolutely fantastic and walked me through it. So I wanted to pass that on, and I actually went up today and thanked her for that. And I have a card here, so I wanted to pass it on to you. Her name was Sharon Spanos. So she was very aware of it. It wasn't the first telephone call she received in regards to this, but she certainly made, you know, a lot of times we gravitate to the negative, and I think it's important that we bring something forward that's positive, that, you know, she took the sting out of things for her, and I'm sure a lot of other people too. Thank you.
And we did also put information out on social media, into the mainstream media as well, letting people know that this is an error, that they should disregard those bills. But if they have any questions, just call, as we've said.
Councilor Mercy.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. Through you to Manager Donahue, we have a new treasurer, and how long has she been here?
Probably about a month. Yeah.
Did we meet her at one point?
She did come to the...
Did she come here?
Oh, you know, she was here. I don't know. I'm not quite sure. We'll bring her in.
Yeah, I'd like to meet her. Yes, thank you.
I know we spoke of her. Kelly Oakes is the new treasurer. But we will certainly have her in.
Sure,
we'll see if she can come in next week to meet the council.
That's fine.
She's doing a great job.
Thank you.
Councilor Leahy.
Sure, I just wanted to mention one other thing. So Sunday was pretty windy day, and there were some boxes on Merrimack Street that were out, and I just want to say that when I called DPW, they came right up, they gathered all the boxes, they were in traffic, and they rounded them up, and so just, you know, those guys are out working 7 days a week, and they do a great job, so I just wanted to mention that.
Last but not least, City Council executive session. Executive session regarding a matter of litigation, namely Hood et al. Versus City of Lowell. Public discussion of which could have a detrimental effect on the city position. Motion to go into executive session and leave from there.
Moved.
Councilor Mercier, Mayor Samaras. We are going to executive session.
Roll call.
Roll call, please.
Mayor Samaras. Yes. Council Cirillo.
Yes.
Council Conway.
Yes.
Counselor Elliott.
Yes.
Counselor Kennedy.
Yes.
Counselor Leahy. Counselor Mercia.
Yes.
Counselor Milonazo.
Yes.
Counselor Noon.
Yes.
9 yeas.